All right, all you beautiful people out there, what's happening? It is, what day is it today? Tuesday. It's Tuesday here in lovely Cork City, and we're just getting ready to head down to the court. But before we do, so we jump on here and just use the computer in the office instead of doing a live from the side of the road. Even though we'll probably get a live in from the side of the road later on, but at least here we can get out to Facebook and to Twitch as well. So shout out to everybody out there in Facebook and Twitch world as well. Hopefully you might have seen the update yesterday over on the YouTube channel. But yesterday morning I was attending court in Middleton for the joints that were sent out in the post last year, or 2 years ago now, and as part of the November 5th National Legalized Cannabis Day on 2021, which was the 20-year anniversary of when Luke Ming Flanagan had sent out those joints to politicians back in 2001 in a similar effort to draw attention to the need to reform our drug laws in Ireland, specifically around cannabis. Unfortunately, given the fact that we're 20 years later and we're following the footsteps of Ming, or even looking at it today, almost 22 years later, we're still not much closer really to a change in the law. The law still as it stands leaves cannabis users facing the prospect of criminalization, facing the prospect of punitive fines, or of being incarcerated, locked up in prison. Although that last one, it's quite rarely used, it still doesn't make it okay. The first two are bad enough. Criminal convictions or fines, they're very punishing. Like my own experience with fines was taking money from my kids. My money mostly went to my kids. Anytime I got fines, that was money I would have been spending on my kids, food, rent. We haven't been on a fucking sun holiday in years. But nonetheless, every time I got fined, that's who it was hitting most. It was my kids. When I got a criminal conviction, that leaving me unable to obtain a half decent job. Ones where they check if you've got a criminal conviction. That's punishing my kids. That's punishing my family. So just because you're not getting locked up doesn't mean that makes it okay. But anyway, as I said, yesterday's court case was for sending the joints out to the politicians. It went quite well, I suppose. Considering all things, the judge gave me a fair opportunity to speak within the court. So up first was the prosecution, so the state prosecution. They got to question the guard first, so the guard was up in the stand. He read out his statement, and they asked him a number of questions regarding his statement. One of those questions was about my cooperation, and the guard was like, "Oh yeah, Martin, was a pleasure to work with. He 100% cooperated from beginning to end. Not a problem at all." And in fairness to the guard, he was sound out as well himself. I'm not even going to mention any names, although if the people out there, kind of in the authorities, wanted to find out who he was, it wouldn't be that hard. But to be honest, that guard was sound. In meeting him, given the voluntary statement, which I went down to the Midland Garda station to give, it's been very nice. He didn't want to charge me. He didn't even want to process it. But unfortunately, there was pressure from upstairs to push the file along, and they wanted to bring me to court, the guys upstairs. So that guard had to show up in court yesterday, read out his statement, and then I got to question him. I only had one question for him, and that question was in relation to the Forensic Science Ireland document that was handed in evidence to the court. And my question was plain and simple: did the Forensic Science Ireland document indicate the level of THC in the product? And it didn't. It didn't indicate the level of THC in the product at all. It only just determined that it was cannabis. It was a positive for cannabis. So that was all my questioning for him. Then I got an opportunity to go up into the witness box, I suppose, and give my testimony, give my evidence to the court. And I suppose I was speaking for about maybe 10 minutes there with the judge, uninterrupted as well. The judge just let me speak away unchallenged, talking away the whole time. And I got an opportunity that, as the Cannabis Activist Alliance were mentioned, as they were on their logo was on the head of paper. Their logo was on the head of paper, so their name was brought up in court. So I just described to the judge, the group and what we're doing and why we've come together. And she was intrigued by it. To be fair, I have to say that the judge was really listening to what it was that I was saying. I told her about the Patients for Safe Access and the reason why that group was formed. And I told her about the years of campaigning that's been done and the level of ignorance, the wall of ignorance that we've met as campaigners from the different ministers in charge, because I suppose the ministers in charge have changed multiple times since when Luke Flanagan went into engaged in his campaign of civil disobedience all those years ago. But yeah, in the end, anyway, the judge, although she listened and everything, she dismissed the supply charge, which was good. She said it doesn't give me a license to be sending things out in the post, which I kind of replied, Judge, didn't really want the license to be sending out in the post anyway. That would go against the purpose of the campaign, which was civil disobedience. I said if I had a license, it would have been pointless because I had permission to do it, which is what we kind of want to do in a sense, permission to possess it. But we don't even want permission. We shouldn't need permission to possess this. You see, that's the thing. That's the issue here. We don't need permission to possess it. And we shouldn't need permission to possess it. But she dismissed that charge anyway, which was good. And then when it came to the possession charge, basically she said that, look, you admitted that it was cannabis. You admitted to being in possession of it. So she goes, I'm going to find you guilty of that. However, she goes, I'm going to apply the Probation Act, meaning you don't get a conviction. And that's pretty much it. I put my hand up at that stage and said, Judge, what actually is the Probation Act? Do I have to do anything? Do I have to sign anything? And she's like, no, you're done. That's it. No, you just applied the Probation Act and you get to go home. You're done. No conviction. Although it is recorded on your record, I'd imagine that if there's people who look at your record, they're going to see that you got a Probation Act for drugs. And that's all it comes up with. It doesn't say cannabis. It says drugs. So it's open to interpretation there by the reader, then whoever that may be. And if it's a potential employer, they're going to look more favorably at the person who doesn't have a drugs Probation Act, who doesn't have a drugs conviction. So unfortunately, that leaves me on an unequal ground, I suppose, Standing on shaky legs. So yeah, the case went, as I said, it was a good outcome. It wasn't my expected outcome, to be very honest. I was hoping that I would have been convicted of both charges, and that's not that I want to have a conviction for supply or possession, although I have a number already for possession. It was basically that I wanted a conviction so I can appeal them. I wanted her to even like give me a prison sentence. Even I really wanted her to just go hard on me. As welcome as it was for her to be like listening and engaging, and very respectful too. I kind of wanted her to throw the book at me, to go hard on me, so I can make a case of it to the public. But unfortunately, there's not much of a case to me because it was. If it wasn't a case of civil disobedience, if it wasn't a campaign to legalize cannabis, it would have been a preferable outcome for anybody else in court. But for me, I kind of wanted her to throw the book at me. I wanted to appeal that. I wanted to bring it to the higher courts. But it wasn't the case. A funny one, guys. At the end of the court case, the guy who was asking the questions, the court clerk, he was there representing the director for public prosecution. He was the one who was asking me questions. He asked me a couple of questions, and they weren't tough at all. Basically, what was the product that you had? And I told him it was a CBD flower. It was a variety of cannabis that was low THC and and he's like, so you're admitting that it's cannabis you're in possession of? Yeah. No secret of that. But in the end, after the judge gave her decision and stuff, he turned and he said to me, he goes, oh, it's okay that we destroy the evidence, so Martin. And meaning the cannabis that was in a little evidence bag. And I jokingly said, it goes, oh yeah, sure, I've loads of it at home. And with that, the whole court erupted in laughter. The judge, the guards, the solicitors. There was a small courtroom. Everybody else had gone for lunch because it was the last case just before lunch. But they got a good old laugh out of it. And even the judge, then, as I turned to walk away, as everything was done, she goes, look, Martin, she goes, hang on 1 second. She goes, I'm just going to order that the clerk delete that last contribution to the record for our own, for my sake and your sake, she said. Because I kind of put my foot in it, really, when I said that. It was just a reaction, just a little tongue-in-cheek little remark. I didn't think much of it when I was saying it, but when I look back at it, then I was like, oh yeah, I just admitted that I had a load of cannabis at home, and that opened me for the potential that my gaff raided. I looked over at a couple of the cops as well. There was 4 detectives over there because, as I said in my post over on Twitter, 7 of 20 cases were cannabis, one of those being mine. And they were all breaking their arse laughing. The cops came over to me afterwards, giving me back one of my letters. I had to give in a letter from my consultant, and he goes, "Your son Martin." He goes, "Your son man Martin." He goes, "Fair play, Che." Much like what you're saying out there. He goes, "You've some balls." Yeah, I just shook his hand. I goes, look, it was an absolute pleasure meeting you. I goes, you're a really nice guy, and I goes, I hope meet you again someday, but under different circumstances. And he said the same. He goes, you were a pleasure to work with, Martin. It was a really nice meeting you. And he goes, best of luck with everything you have. And I have to say that same guard, like, he supports what I'm doing. Like, and not to be throwing him under the bus, I haven't mentioned the guy, and I hope people don't look into him, i.e. the authorities out there, but he supports what I was doing. He hopes that I achieve my goal, which is to legalize cannabis. He agreed with me, and as well as him, the other guards went in the station on the evening I was down there. There was about 6 guards in the reception area where I was waiting. Because he was super sound, he could have put me in the cell while I was waiting, but instead he said, come in here, sit down. And he was chatting away at me, and so were the other guards coming in and out, just chatting away at me. And every one of the guards there that night all agreed with me that cannabis legalization would be much better for them, and it would be no real trouble for them at all. The level of work I seen them putting in that night just for me, it was about 45 minutes of input, pressing, tapping keys, pushing buttons, processing a file along. It takes time. These guys didn't want to do it because while I was there that night, there was a call came in for a welfare check. And I said it to the guard who was sitting there processing my file, because I bet you would love to be getting into your car, going out there to make sure that old man is okay, because it was a welfare check on a 70-plus-year-old man down in that East Cork area. Neighbours were concerned for his welfare, so rang the guards, saying, hey, can you knock by there, make sure that Mr. So-and-so is okay. And that guard says, yeah, Martin, he goes, that's what I joined this force for, that's what I joined the guards for, is to help people, to make people safe. And I said, are you achieving that by having me down here processing that? And he goes, no, not at all. It was your threat to nobody. So hopefully in time to come, we will achieve our goal. We will see cannabis legalized in Ireland. We will see a prohibition of cannabis brought to an end. But until then, we'll continue fighting. As I said, later today, we're going to be going into court. Today, we're going to be charged with cultivation of cannabis and possession of cannabis. So we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping for a positive outcome, one which I can appeal it to the higher courts and argue the merits of my argument that the prohibition of cannabis, the enforcement of that, is in violation of our inalienable constitutional rights. We've got human rights enshrined under our Irish constitution. We have to exercise those rights. We have to exercise our right to protest and our other rights as well, enshrined in the Constitution. That's what we'll be doing today. See lots of comments coming in there, guys. Serenable says, well done, Martin, you're a legend. Much appreciated, Serenable. Podge says, you might meet an odd sound guy, but there's not many that speak about it openly. Now, I was quite surprised by it. My interaction on that evening, Podge, not one, but 6 guards inside in that station agreeing with me and all openly talking about it too. None of them really holding back on that night, which was, man, it was mind-blowing because, yeah, you're dead right. Of all the years I've been doing this, it's been few and far between the guards that I've met that let me see their human side. That's how I think better to describe it. They let me see their human side that night down there in that station. But those guards who let you see that human side, they're few and far between. For most of them, they kind of have to keep that RoboCop role going, Tinkle Ting says, if he supported what you were doing, he would resign. Yeah, you would like to think that, all right, but at the same time, the guy's got a family and mortgages and loans and all of that stuff. We could say the same thing for our own cannabis community out there. If people supported the legalization of cannabis, they wouldn't respect it by hiding it and, being afraid of the cops. If they thought it was wrong, then everybody should be out with me engaging in this campaign of civil disobedience. If they were, we would have changed this a long time ago. But for the same reasons that those people don't come out and engage in civil disobedience for fear of being targeted, for fear of losing a job, that's the exact same reason that cop isn't going to resign. As much as I would love for the cops to all walk off the job, for changing this policy, we're not going to get it. We do have a much more of a chance to get our own community to march out against these laws, and that's what will get the law changed. As I tweeted it earlier today, if we only got 1% of those who supported the legalization of cannabis to engage in a campaign of civil disobedience, these laws would have been changed yesterday. They really would have. The justice system would not be able to keep up with the pressure put on it by an influx of cases driven by a civil disobedience, especially cases where people are going to be going not guilty in court, not going in there saying guilty, yes or no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. You have to say not guilty, and then that makes them bring you back again and again, and that takes up court time. My hearing yesterday in the court, that took about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. That's 15 or 20 minutes. Multiply that by 100, multiply that by 1,000, by 10,000, How big a number can we get? What's 1% of the supporters? I believe 10,000 people. That's about 1% of the supporters of legalization in Ireland. Probably actually less than 10%. Casa Get Up says, I wouldn't shoot the messenger, but direct anger towards the government elite. Yep. Tinkletink says, lots of laws that the guards don't enforce. I 100% agree with you, Tinkletink, but the thing is that there's pressure from the top down for them to enforce these laws. I think there's like numbers that they have to be generating, and if they're not like stopping and searching people, if they're not catching people with cannabis, there's probably going to be questions asked of them. Unfortunately, when in the force, these kinds of stops and these kinds of detections are incentivized, unfortunately. Unlike, say, the domestic violence cases, these things are a bit more complicated. There's a bit more time needed from the cops to get involved in these things, and there's less likely of a kind of a court case, if you will, to come out of it. So they don't prioritize those cases, unfortunately. As I was shocked there earlier this morning when Amy Brown over on her Twitter put up that in her social care course, she learned a statistic, and it was a shocking statistic, that 1 in 4 pregnant women in Ireland suffer physical abuse at the hands of their partner. 1 in 4. That is a shocking statistic. And then you couple that with the fact that the Gardaí left thousands of unanswered domestic violence calls go unanswered to 999. That's absolutely scary to think. So yeah, like there is laws out there that are not being enforced, domestic violence being one of them, and we need a serious shift there in how guards enforce or protect us, keep us safe, As I do believe that there is guards who get in there for that reason. I also do believe that there's guards getting in there because they were probably bullied as young fellas, and there's their opportunity now to bully people. There's a bit of a power drive there from them. So guys, before we go, we want to pack up a ball. Yes, let's get into a little bit of civil disobedience here on the show before we log off. Keep your comments coming in, guys. If you haven't contributed there yet in the hot box, get your comments in and I'll read through them before we sign off. Early morning stream. Yes, I know I'm not used to being on here this early in the morning. We still got the coffee going here. Coffee's got some coconut oil and some cream, some cacao powder, some lion's mane mushroom. We got some reishi in there, and we got some cordyceps in there as well. It's a real powerhouse inside in this thing at the moment. But we got to be on point going in here to court in a minute. That lion's mane to help keep the brain firing on all cylinders. But yes. Got some bud there recently off of a friend. Got 2 different strains, picked up a half of each. Got some haze, so an unknown haze variety, and I got some Moby Dick. And to be honest, I kind of liked the haze more than the Moby Dick. And that's not to say that the Moby Dick wasn't nice. I just kind of preferred the haze. It's been a long time since I actually had a half decent haze, and this one is a nice haze. There's probably people out there now being like, haze, bleh. Some people have a bad taste of haze. In some areas, that seems to be all you can get. But for me, I suppose I've been just relying on growers for so long, and unfortunately, none of the growers I knew were growing haze. I think about maybe 6 or 7 years ago, one of the lads, he had a super silver haze. He done about like 4 grows in a row of the stuff, and then he just wouldn't do it anymore. He got sick of it. Podge says, stand up for your rights. Guys, like, I can't agree with Podge anymore on this, and I always say, Bob Marley, he didn't write songs, guys. He wrote commands. If you were to listen to his song and he says, get up, stand up for your rights, guys, that's an instruction. He doesn't want you to sing along with him. He wants you to let those words go in and actions come out. Get up, stand up for your rights, guys, you know? Yes. Go on, Bob. We blaze this one up in honor of Bob and everybody else out there, you know, who's campaigning for their rights. And I know all of you out there, guys, want to see a day where your rights have been respected. Although not all of you are able to get out there, again, for the reason mentioned earlier. People are like fearful of the repercussions of engaging in civil disobedience. Guys, my case there yesterday, if it's anything to be learned from, is that civil disobedience isn't really punished in this country, to be fair. The judge respected it, the guards respected it. They didn't take disrespect from it in my eyes, anyway, in my experience. So if anything, it's just more fuel now for more people to get involved, guys. Get involved in cannabis, get involved in civil disobedience for cannabis legalization in Ireland. I do believe, you know, it's the only way we're going to get change in a time frame that's going to be that's going to make us anyway happy. If we're going to sit back on our ass and we're going to wait for the politicians to actually do something about this, and us not really do anything except, you know, a couple of tweets and a couple of emails and letters and stuff like that, and not disregarding that and not disrespecting those efforts. We need all of these efforts together. But I do believe that civil disobedience is going to, it's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and it'll get us the change that we want if we truly engage in it, guys, you know? It's a peaceful protest, guys. It's really ticking a lot of boxes in terms of optics for the public. It's how can we look down badly on this? No, like over the two years that I've been engaging in civil disobedience, the only people who actually looked down on me were people within my own community for saying, you know, that you can't be doing this, you can't be doing that, it's going to look bad, it's going to undermine the efforts of those before you and around you. And it didn't. It actually brought more attention to the campaign. It brought more attention to the issue. It brought more attention to the topic, which was always been our goal. We need them to be talking about this. We need this issue to be at the forefront if we're ever going to get changed. And if we're only tweeting about it, if we're only engaging online, then it's sadly not going to be at the forefront. It's going to be just stuck within our own little echo chambers online. And that's what happens. You know, you see Natalie O'Regan, you see myself, you see Crown, you see others out there who are engaging online. We're stuck in our echo chambers. It's very hard to break outside of that unless we get onto some of the national media stations and things like that. And even then, it's only for a small sliver of time that you get exposed outside of your echo chamber. Civil disobedience, I believe, is the is a tool we need to be using in order to truly escape that echo chamber. With that being said, guys, let's blaze one up. Civil disobedience at its best here, as always, on 420 News. Oh, yummy. Alright, we're just creeping up on 10 bells here now, so I better start loving you and leaving you guys. I'll get through your comments in a couple of seconds. Let's finish off this bowl first. Let's see. Smoking haze for days. Yes. Daglon sent in a super chat. Absolute legend, Daglon. Much appreciated, pal. Pop that up on screen there again, just so everybody can see it again, guys. Absolute heroes. Guys, I really do appreciate the support that comes in here as well to the show. When I initially started this, I was funding everything, you know, paying for the website, paying for the streaming service and all of that. But with your kind generosity out there, guys, the support that's coming, for quite a while now, I've not had to dip into my own personal savings to cover the cost of keeping the show up and running. So, guys, with that, you know, much appreciated, guys. Absolute love and respect to everybody who's supported this show, whether it be just sharing the content, liking it, commenting on it, or whether it be sticking your hand into your pocket and showing a bit of support in that form as well. Every bit of it's appreciated, guys. So much respect for y'all. Tinkle Tink says, remember Jews for Jerusalem? I do indeed. All of us were locked in home, not allowed to leave for 5 kilometers, and the guards were going to all our beaches and national landmarks doing a bit of dancing, weren't they? Nurses and doctors got on board then as well. Keith Malloy says, I'll give that a shot. don't think Judge Keller will be too happy, and I agree with you, dude. They're not all not bad, but detective can be a bit bad. 2 years ago, and it will be another 30 quid worth of cannabis. It's a waste of state money. I can't agree with you more, man. It's heartbreaking when I see these cases, and as you said, like from 2 years ago too, like that's going to be detrimental on a person's mental health. Anything that's affecting your quality of sleep at night, that's considered as having a negative effect on your mental health. And I know in my experience that, by God, the thoughts of court and the thoughts of interaction with judges play havoc on my mind at night when I was going to sleep. And first thing in the morning when I would wake up, coming close to the court dates, I would wake up with a freaking knot in my stomach, a big ball of anxiety, just because I'm stuck in my head having a conversation that can go 100 different ways, and I'm having all of them. I'm playing them all out in my own head, and that's struggle then trying to get that voice to be quiet in your head, to get it to shut up. And it's a tough thing to do when it's your freedom is on the line. These people, don't not forget it. Like, it's no small thing going into a courtroom and an argument. You're arguing for your freedom. This person has the power to lock you into a concrete room with a steel door for a year or more. Yes, Casa, get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight, and I'm not giving up. Tinkle Tink says, Garrett is just any old job. They can ruin your life. It's not just any old job. They can ruin your life, yeah, and they know this too. But yet, still they continue with it. Casa says, people's inaction in this country allows the system to continue. Don't I know, Casa? Myself in Casa, I suppose it was through the efforts to legalize cannabis that I met Casa all those years ago. And I suppose all those years campaigning Casa, we've seen people kind of come and go from the scene. People getting burnt out, people getting, just intimidated by the stigma, the fear, the pressure, and all of that. And the lack of results as well, I suppose, that has to be said, the lack of progress. But it's good to see that you're still there campaigning anyway. Hodge, stand up for your rights. J.O. says, good morning, Martin. Hope you and your family are keeping good. Well to see you. Yeah, nice one, J.O. We're all doing well anyway, thank God. Touch wood, long may that continue. Due a baby as well, guys. We're due a baby in the next 2 weeks. The 15th of February is the due date, but we could be having an arrival any day now. So that in the back of my mind as well, going into court yesterday and today, is like, oh yeah, I could be getting a call later today to say that, like, I'm on the way to the hospital, my water's just broke. Great, isn't it? Alright, Rasher, what's happening? We had touchdown there as well this morning. Happy days, good to report that. Got some nice gifts there off of a good friend, I have to say. Much appreciated. You know who you are. Absolute legend, and I know Mary's going to be happy as well. But much appreciated. Podge 2022 says, the hassle of court is a very stressful thing because you don't know if you're going to be paying a fine or doing time. That's the thing, a lot of the times I went into court, I wasn't too sure if I was even going to be walking back out of there that day. As I said, a lot of the times the potential of getting a prison sentence, it's quite low, but it's still there. It's not as if it's non-existent. It's still there. You go in and you meet the wrong judge and you say the wrong thing, you act in the wrong way, and you could get prison. Luckily for me, I didn't. Luckily for me, I didn't give in to those fears, and I went in and I said to the judge many a times, representing myself, and only getting a donation box at the end of it, saying to the judge, I don't feel like I've done anything wrong here. I feel it's a waste of my time and the court's time even bringing me here. Something needs to be done about it. And for the judge to say, well, this isn't the place for the law to be debated. You have to get onto the government for that. I'm only here to see if you broke the law or not, and you broke the law, so I'm going to have to enforce the law. And then he would give me a donation to the charity box. And you're just like, well, what's even the point of this? Like, is it just freaking the extraction of money from individuals, another freaking invisible tax on people to keep the justice system rolling? Sickening. I was 17 when I first got caught with cannabis. I was 18 by the time I got brought to court. My first court appearance was at 18 years of age. I'm now 33. That's 15 years of interacting with the system. I've been rather institutionalized by this interaction, I suppose, really. Chilbert says, Martin, you are inspiring and have a galvanizing effect in the Canna community worldwide, bringing people together. Hashtag Go Ireland. Much appreciated, Chilbert. Very kind words there, man, giving me a little shiver and all as I was reading them. I never realized I was going to be doing all of this when I started it off. I only ever started it off with one dream, one vision, and that's to highlight the harms of cannabis prohibition on our society, not just here in Ireland but globally. And in doing that, there was secondary effects, and one of those, it's my most cherished effect, and that's the bringing together of this community online, because it's not just being online. I know many of the people within this community, the Hotbox, they've met up in person. I believe a number of you have gotten together over at the Product Art as well there recently, and that's amazing. I know that there was friendships made. I know that there was even people got into relationships through meeting people in the Hotbox. So blown away by all of that, like, you know. But that was never a name of the podcast. But by God, is it my most favorite aspect of the podcast. And that's all you guys out there. So you're my most cherished. I wouldn't say possession because I don't own you. You can come and go as you please. The fact that you're here is just touches me. Appreciate it, guys. Rasher says, you as a person are taking on the state and it's thinking. Yeah, well, hopefully the thinking turns to action in time. Chilwer says, rare integrity and belief and commitment. Guys, Pods 4420 says, alright, Martin, hope everything went okay, man. Yeah, earlier I just mentioned what went on, but yeah, all went okay yesterday. It didn't go as expected, but the outcome was preferable for anybody else but me, I suppose. I wanted it to be a bit of a harsher punishment, but they didn't throw the book at me. She went quite nice. Making hotbox babies. Who knows? Who knows? In time to come, maybe. But yeah, I suppose I've brought 2 hotbox babies into this world. I'll be bringing a second hotbox baby into this world. Elijah was born during the time frame of the show. Was he conceived during it as well? I think he was. I think I brought the news of Elijah's what would you say, inception to ye, his arrival. The news of the inception of this new baby, and soon the news of the arrival. So yeah. And hopefully others out there that got into relationships might do the same in time to come, if that's their wish. We might have one more bowl before we say good luck to you guys. Yes, Rash, or Product Art 2023 is definitely on the cards. I know I'll be getting over there 100% anyway this year. All going well, like 99%. Like there's a 1% chance that like fucking things can go hits up, as they would say. Or belly up, maybe might be the more PG term there. But there is a very small chance that shit could go wrong and I mightn't get there, but like 99% I'm there. Like last year I couldn't. It was outside of my control. Family commitments and all of that. I was needed here. And we were in a bit of a crisis at the time, but as I said, you know, thank God, touch wood, we continue in a good space, and that we don't go back into that crisis, and I get to get over there and have a good time with yourselves at Product Art. Casa says, go on, Elijah, the future cannabis prince. Yeah, we let him carve out his own path, but if he wants to follow in the footsteps of Pop, then I'll certainly be a proud pap. I'd be proud nonetheless anyway. Jesus, my heart melts every time I just look at the little fella. So yeah, can't wait to see what he does with his life. And I hope I get to be there side by side, step by step, the whole way. Daniel says his son is due on the 423. Oh, we got a 420 baby. Hey, congrats, Daniel. Hopefully, baby and mother are all doing good, and look forward to the good news of your baby's arrival. And it's your son as well, so you know what you're having. I don't know what's coming. My partner found out. I walked out of the room and she was told, and fair play to her, she's after keeping it secret up to now. And I'll find out hopefully as that baby comes out. I'm hoping for a boy, but my main hope is that the baby is born happy and healthy. Gilbert says, complimentary weed for all Irish attendees of Product Art. Gilbert, I heard about last year's spread and absolutely blown away by what I heard. So fair play to the UK scene over there and to the growers. I eat, you know who they are. I won't mention any names, but I heard the spread was absolutely amazing. That there was multiple strains, and not just multiple strains of bud, but multiple strains of extracts as well in different forms. Yes, I can't wait. I'm definitely got high expectations going over there anyway, Chilbert. No doubt I'll be pleased. With that being said, let's blaze one up for all the expectant babies coming into the world, and for all of those and looking to make babies. Let's blaze one up for you. Proper hitting one there. Yum. So guys, for fear of being late for court, it's 10 past 10 now. I gotta get myself together and make my way into court there for half past. Much appreciated, guys. I'll get back on with an update as to how today's case goes. So keep an eye out for some streams later on or for some posts over on social media. Until then, guys, have a lovely morning. Thanks for your company this morning, and we'll chat soon. Much love. Peace. Bye.